What's going on, you guys? Today I'm going to show you how to take an image that looked like this and add rain to it like this in Adobe Photoshop. Let's get to it. So go ahead and pick an image that you would like to edit to look like this in Lightroom. Might I suggest even, that you find an image that's kind of darker and that looks like it might make sense for it to be rainy. You wouldn't want to use like a bright, sunny, shiny image. It's not going to look very good if you do that. You'll just have to trust me. I've tried it. You should all have access to this image. If you don't, I'll put a link to it in the description below. You can download it. Either way, find this image in Lightroom and right click on it and choose Edit in Photoshop, or head on over to Photoshop. And if you downloaded it off the internet, just go to File, Open, and open up an image that you want to be using. Like I said, we're going to be using this one right here, so let's get to it. I'm going to go ahead and just delete these so we can just start over from scratch. Here we go. Let's make sure we're all working in the same area by coming up to the top of our screen and going to Window, Workspace, and make sure you're on Essentials. And then just for good measure, let's also come down and choose Reset Essentials. And that way we know everybody's Photoshop is going to look exactly the same before we get started. Beautiful. Let's come down here. Over here is our layers panel, and we've used this before. Let's come down here to the bottom of it. See this little plus sign right here? This is going to allow us to create a new blank layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you can see that created this new layer called Layer 1. Let's rename this layer just to keep things a little bit organized here. So I'm going to double click, and it's important. You got to double click right on the words Layer 1. Don't double click out here or this will happen. That's not what we want. Double click right on the words Layer 1, and we're going to just call this Rain, and we'll press Enter or Return there to commit to that. Now we want to fill this layer up with nothing but blackness. A real easy way to do that is come up here to the top of your screen and go to Edit. Come down here and choose Fill. And then let's change right here where it says Contents. Let's change that to black. Mode should be normal. Opacity should be 100%. This should be unchecked. Let's go ahead and press OK on that. Beautiful. Let's add what is eventually going to become our rain by coming up here to the top of our screen. We're looking for Filter, Noise, and we're going to add noise. Now it's going to bring up this box right here, and I want you to put in these numbers right here. 25 for the amount. Change the distribution to Gaussian, and check this box right here that says monochromatic. So it should look exactly like this right here. And you should see, it should almost look like there's a fine layer of sand or dust over the black of your image here, which is exactly what we want here. Now, we need to make this noise that we just added much larger. So let's come up to the top of our screen. We're going to go to Edit again. This time we're going to come down and we're going to choose Transform and come over and choose Scale. Make sure that you're still on your rain layer, of course, which you should be unless you've changed it. Once this pops up, make sure this little chain right here is clicked. It should be clicked by default, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. You'll know. I'm going to click in this box, the W box right here, and I'm going to change this to 400. You'll know if that chain was clicked because the H, the height, will also change to 400. If these both say 400 right here, you're good to go, and you're going to come over here and just press this check mark right there, just like that. And that might take a second for Photoshop to think about that. Now, you can't see it, but we've just added a ton of data to our image, and that might slow down Photoshop for what we're going to do later. So we're going to crop away all that unseen data. It's kind of a cool little trick. What we're going to do is come up here to the top of our screen and go to Select and choose All. Keyboard shortcut for that would be Command or Control A. Then we're going to go to Image and choose Crop right here. Go ahead and click on that. And then we're going to press Command or Control D on our keyboard to deselect. That would have been like coming up here and choosing Select, Deselect. So Command D or Control D on a PC. Okay, very good. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to convert our rain layer to what's called a smart object. If you don't know what a smart object is right now, that's fine. Just know that to do it, you're going to come up here to this little menu button up here in the top right hand corner of the layers panel. You're going to click on that guy and you're going to choose Convert to Smart Object right here. And that also will take a little bit for Photoshop to think about that. There you go. You'll know it converted it to a smart object because it will have this little icon there in the corner on the layers panel. Now watch this cool little trick right here. We're going to change the blend mode of our rain layer, and we're going to change it to screen. And what that's going to do is that's going to remove anything from that layer that is dark and keep everything that is bright. So you can see all the blackness that was on that layer is gone, and all that's left are the little white dots. That's really cool. Now let's start trying to turn this into rain by coming up to the top of our screen and going to Filter. We're going to come down to Blur, and we're going to choose Motion Blur. And we're going to go with numbers. Well, I like the angle to be 65. That's going to make it so the rain's coming down. You can play around with the angle. It doesn't really matter. You decide what angle you like. Maybe don't do perfectly horizontal. That's a real heck of a rainstorm right there. Somewhere where it's coming down more vertically is great. And then distance is really going to depend on the image you're using. Somewhere between, I don't know, 75 to 160 seems to be about the right number. If you don't love the number you pick, we can actually come back and change that later. So don't even worry about that. In fact, I'm just going to leave mine at 133 and press OK. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we got this weird spot on the edges. We're going to get rid of that again. And guess how we're going to do it? Making sure the rain layer is selected, we're going to come up here and go to Edit, Transform, Scale, just like we did before. Now we have a smart object on the layer, so you might see this box pop up right here. You can go ahead and click on Don't Show Again and press OK and get rid of that. And it looks like the blur effect went away, but it'll come back, don't worry. All we're gonna do is scale this up to about 110%. So I'll type 110 in the W box. That should change the H box, and I'll come over here and click on this check mark right here to commit to that. And that brings the blur back in, and now we don't have the weird thing happening on the edges. Okay, well, now we just need to refine this a little bit. Let's do one last thing. I'm gonna come down here to the bottom of my layers panel, and this little black and white circle is called an adjustment layer. I'm gonna click on this dude, and I'm going to choose levels right here. That's gonna bring up this right here. We're gonna make some adjustments to this, but let's do something first. We did this in our last tutorial. Let's come up here to the little layer, or the menu icon here in the top right-hand corner, and we're going to choose Create Clipping Mask. And what that's going to do is make it so any adjustments we make here on levels will only happen to the rain layer. It's awesome. Now, watch this. As I bring in this triangle here, be careful. Don't do this one down here. That's not the one we want. Actually, I want this one right here. As I bring this in, that's going to get rid of some of the rain. This is a little too much rain. Let's get rid of some of it by bringing this in, and you'll see some of the rain will start to disappear as it gets darker. And then this slider over here, this white one right here, as I bring in, it'll make the rain a little bit more intense. So I'm going to start bringing this in and watch what happens as I do that. Don't go too far or it starts to look like snow. So be careful you don't go too far. And you guys, there's no magic number here that I can tell you. It's just going to depend on the image you're using and how much rain you want to show up. So I'm just moving the black one back and forth like this until I find a spot that I like. Then I come over and I adjust the white one a little bit until I like it. And I come back and do the black one again. And you figure out, maybe you want just a little bit of rain like that, or maybe you want a whole bunch of rain like that. It's up to you. You decide what looks best. And then I'll, again, adjust the intensity of it with the white slider just one last time. And there you go. Now, let's say we want to go back and add a little bit more motion blur. Maybe we want this to look like a little bit more intense rain. Well, we can always come back down here, right here where it says motion blur on our layers panel, on the rain layer. I'm going to double click right on the words motion blur, and that brings this back up again. And I can either increase the distance, making the rain a little bit more intense, or decrease the distance, making it look a little bit less blurry. It's up to you. You decide what you think looks good. And again, you can also hit OK there, and you can also come in and adjust those levels again. So I could come and click on this black and white circle right here, and I could come up here and adjust these things as well. There you go. We are done. Now all we got to do is save this so we can turn it in. As always, whenever we do anything in Photoshop, we always want to save it twice. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I need to find my folder that I like to save things in. That's either going to be hiding here with the red, or you could go to Google Drive, Shared Drives, Photography, Photo 1, 2, Your Period, find your folder, and I'm going to call this rain photo, and I always like to change the format from a TIFF to a Photoshop. And let's go ahead and click on save there. And what that does is that saves all my layers for me. Watch this little blue progress bar down here. As soon as that goes away, we can now save this again how we need to. And it might take a while. That's okay. There you go. It's done. So then we'll come up to the top of our screen, and again we'll go to File, Save As one more time. And this time, let's be sure and change the format from a Photoshop to a JPEG. The JPEG is the file that we're going to turn in, so I might come up here and say, turn this one in, just so I make sure I turn in the right one, and go ahead and press save there. If you see this box pop up right here, I like the number 10, so I'll go ahead and leave that there and press OK. And that's it. We're done. We have created rain where there was no rain before. Well done, you guys.